concrete vaults of the Yamashita treasures. What I commonly noticed among many amateur treasure hunters is that, when they happen to encounter a certain concrete vault, they end up ignoring it. They often end up putting it on the side, and then, they tend to continue with their diggings. They dig, and dig further, only to find nothing, until to the point that they finally gave up while not knowing that they have already uncovered the treasure deposit on their excavation site. As a treasure hunter myself, one good advice that I can give to all amateur treasure hunters is to break any suspicious type of concrete that you have discovered. Especially when it has dimensions that is good enough to fit something inside. However, you have to make sure that what you found is an old concrete, and not a recent one. Majority of concrete vaults with stored precious deposits inside are buried under the ground. And basing it on my personal experience, such concrete vaults often contains small to medium volume of treasure deposits. The best part about buried concrete vaults is that they commonly contain gold bars or other forms of gold items. One of the commonly asked questions with buried concrete vaults is whether to break it under the ground, or do you need to pull it out from the surface before attempting to break it apart. Before we answer the question, I would like you to know that the Japanese Imperial Army may have placed booby trap or poison inside the concrete along with the items. So if it happens that either of these two types of traps got triggered in your attempt of breaking the concrete while you are deep under the ground, then your chances of escaping is very low. Thus, the best option for you is to use a chain block and pull the concrete vault out to the surface before breaking it. However, there are some cases where the concrete vault is too big and quite heavy that it is way too impossible to be pulled even by using a chain block. If this is the case, then you really have no other choice but to break it on its original spot. It is indeed quite risky, but it is a type of risk that many dedicated treasure hunters are willing to take. Some concrete vaults can also be found under the water. In one of our past projects, we discovered a concrete vault that had a measurement of about 30 inches length, 12 inches width, and 15 inches height. This concrete vault was under the water, at a depth of about 15 feet. At first, it was impossible to be recognized, because it was covered with thick mud. But with the help of our waterproof metal detector, we were able to locate it. It actually had 4 thick bent rusted metal rods on the 4 edge corners on its top portion, designed for tying up the rope to hoist it up onto the surface. Thus, pulling it up onto the surface made it a lot easier. Anyway, if you are thinking about breaking such concrete while under the water, then you have to think again. There are some concrete vaults that can also be found on the surface, which are exposed on plain sight. Based on my personal experience, they may come in the form of tombs, mohons, flagpole platforms, and just simply boxes of concretes around. So when you happen to encounter any of these types of concrete objects, especially on remote places such as deep in the forest, then you should consider breaking them apart. But unlike those concrete vaults that are buried under, there is a much lower chance that they do contain some treasure deposit inside. Another common tactic by the Japanese Imperial Army in hiding their Yamashita treasures is to use huge rocks. In the past videos, we have already covered the topic about the rock-enclosed treasure signs. All signs that I discussed on that video literally means that the treasure deposit is hidden inside the rock itself. Thus, you need to break the rock in order to retrieve the item inside. But in relation to the concrete material, the Japanese Imperial soldiers often used it as the inner coating of the items. One good example is the Hamburger treasure deposit. We call it a Hamburger treasure deposit because the Japanese Imperial soldiers will split the huge rock into half. They then create a hollow on the inner split side of the huge rock for storing the treasures that they intend to hide. And finally, they will fill all empty spaces with their specialized cement, then they stick the split huge rock back to its original form. Moreover, being able to discover or uncover a certain concrete vault is not yet the time for you to be happy, because you are not still sure if there is really a treasure deposit inside. And also, breaking the concrete is not that too easy. If you intend to break it manually, then it will definitely take you a lot of time to do it. Anyway, there are now many available products for breaking hard concretes that effectively works on Japanese Imperial Army-made concrete vaults. However, they are only available on the black market. This means that they are illegal products which are strictly prohibited by the authorities. Thus, I won't be endorsing any such products here, or on my website. As for those who do not have access to the black market, or simply do not have the financial budget, there are several other old traditional methods, which are aside from using a chisel and hammer. This topic is discussed on a separate video. Assuming that you have managed to break the concrete into pieces, only to find out that it contains nothing inside, this can actually be very disappointing. All those time and effort, breaking such highly durable concrete, simply just went to waste. But you have to know that throughout my treasure hunting career, I can no longer remember how many empty concretes that we already broke, because I lost count of them. Despite the disappointment, we simply keep on moving to the next, because we knew that experiencing failures is a part of the job of hunting treasures. Did you enjoy watching my video? If yes, and if you are new to my channel, then you may want to subscribe, like this video, and hit the small notification bell icon. By subscribing and hitting the bell icon, you will receive alerts or notifications about my new published videos. If you want a reading material about treasure hunting, then you may want to visit my blogging website at treasurehunt.club. Thank you very much for watching, and happy treasure hunting.